The morning sun rose over the dense, sprawling canopy of Silverwood forest, painting the treetops in hues of gold and green. The air was crisp, carrying with it the earthy scent of pine needles, damp soil, and the faint musk of the forest's inhabitants. The forest stretched endlessly, a wild and untamed expanse where silence was broken only by birdsong and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. On the edge of this wilderness, the Johnson family prepared for their weekend adventure. Emma Johnson, with her soft smile and attentive hands, packed their day packs with everything they might need: snacks, water bottles, sunscreen, and a small first aid kit. Beside her, David, her husband, secured their gear, checking their map to ensure they'd stay on the intended trail. In the middle of this flurry of preparation was their 3-year-old son, Liam, his bright blue eyes gleaming with excitement. He clutched his beloved stuffed lion, Leo, to his chest, refusing to let go even as his mother adjusted his tiny backpack. Leo was more than a toy. It was Liam's constant companion, a source of comfort and courage in all his toddler adventures. "Mommy," Liam piped up, his voice high-pitched and full of enthusiasm, "do you think we'll see a real lion today? Like Leo?" Emma chuckled, kneeling to zip up his jacket. "Sweetheart, lions live far away, in places like Africa, but we might see something just as exciting. A deer, maybe, or even a fox." "What about a bear?" Liam asked, his imagination running wild. David ruffled his son's hair. "Let's hope not. But if we see a bear, I'll make sure he knows we have the bravest little lion tamer in the world." Liam giggled and hugged Leo tighter. "I'm not afraid of bears. Leo will protect us." The family piled into their SUV, the sound of the tires crunching over gravel growing louder as they approached the forest's edge. Silverwood wasn't the kind of place you visited casually. The trails were rugged, and the trees grew so densely in some areas that sunlight barely touched the ground. Yet it was precisely this untamed beauty that drew people to it. As they parked and stepped out of the car, the enormity of the forest seemed to swallow them whole. Emma instinctively reached for Liam's hand, holding it tightly as they started down the trail. "Stay close, buddy," she said, her voice laced with caution. "Yes, Mommy," Liam chirped, skipping ahead but always returning to her side. They walked for what felt like hours, the trail winding through groves of towering trees and patches of wildflowers that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Birds flitted from branch to branch, their songs harmonizing with the distant babble of a stream. Liam would stop every few minutes, pointing at something new and fascinating. A squirrel darting up a tree, a butterfly resting on a leaf, or an unusual rock that he insisted looked like a dinosaur bone. David took pictures, capturing moments of Liam's wonder and Emma's tender smiles. These outings were more than just an escape from their busy lives. They were a chance to bond as a family, to create memories that would last a lifetime. As they reached a clearing, they decided to take a break. Emma spread out a blanket, while David unpacked their snacks. Liam busied himself arranging sticks and leaves into what he proudly declared was a forest fort. "Don't go too far, Liam," Emma reminded him as he wandered a few feet away. "I won't," he called back, his voice trailing as he disappeared behind a cluster of bushes. Emma and David exchanged a look. "We should probably keep an eye on him," David said, standing up. But before either of them could follow, Liam reappeared, holding a long stick like a sword. "Look, I'm an explorer," he declared, brandishing the stick triumphantly. Emma laughed. "All right, Mr. Explorer, time for some water before you set off on your next adventure." After their break, They packed up and continued along the trail. The forest seemed denser now, the trees taller, their branches intertwining to create a canopy that blocked out most of the sunlight. The air grew cooler, and the sounds of the forest changed. The cheerful chatter of birds gave way to the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant crack of a branch. Liam, full of energy, darted ahead, his small legs carrying him faster than his parents expected. "I'm going to find the biggest tree in the forest," he shouted, disappearing around a bend. "Liam, wait," Emma called, her voice tinged with alarm. She quickened her pace, but the trail curved sharply, and Liam was already out of sight. David joined her, an expression shifting from amused to concerned. "He couldn't have gone far," he said, trying to reassure her. "He's probably just around the corner." But when they reached the bend, Liam wasn't there. "Liam!" Emma shouted, her voice echoing through the trees. "Buddy, come back," David called, his tone more urgent now. The forest offered no reply. The only sound was the whisper of the wind through the leaves. Emma's heart began to race. "He wouldn't have gone off the trail," she said, her voice trembling. David placed a hand on her shoulder, though his own fear was evident. "We'll find him. Let's split up and check the nearby paths. He can't be far." As they searched, calling Liam's name repeatedly, the forest seemed to grow darker, more foreboding. Every shadow felt like a threat, every rustle a false hope. Liam, unaware of the growing panic among his parents, continued his small adventure deeper into the woods. To him, the towering trees and winding trails were part of an endless playground. He giggled as he stomped through puddles, collected shiny stones, and waved Leo around like a wand. But soon, the path he followed became less distinct. The soft earth beneath his feet turned uneven, and tangled roots jutted out like claws. The cheerful sunlight began to fade as the trees overhead thickened, their branches knitting together to form a near-impenetrable canopy. Liam slowed down, his laughter fading. The realization dawned on him that he couldn't hear his parents anymore. The familiar sounds of their footsteps, their voices calling his name, all were gone. "Mommy? Daddy?" he called, his small voice quivering. The forest seemed to swallow his cries. He spun in place, clutching Leo tightly to his chest. "Where are you?" he called again, louder this time. There was no reply, only the rustling of leaves as a breeze swept through the trees. Shadows deepened around him, and the comforting vibrancy of the forest turned ominous. Liam's lower lip quivered as tears began to form in his wide blue eyes. He sank to the ground, sitting cross-legged on a patch of moss, and hugged Leo. "It's okay, Leo," he whispered, his voice cracking. "We'll find them. They'll come get us." Liam didn't understand the full weight of his situation. He was only 3, too young to grasp the dangers of being lost in the wilderness. All he knew was that he was alone, and scared. The occasional chirp of crickets and the rustle of leaves seemed louder now, filling the silence with an unsettling rhythm. As the hours passed, Liam wandered aimlessly, his small feet stumbling over roots and rocks. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, and fatigue weighed heavily on his tiny frame. Still, he clung to Leo, drawing what little comfort he could from his beloved toy. The forest around him was eerily quiet, as if holding its breath. Then, from the corner of his vision, he noticed movement. A shadow shifted among the trees, large and deliberate. Liam froze, his wide eyes scanning the underbrush. From behind a thicket, a creature emerged. A lion. It stepped into the clearing with slow, deliberate movements, its massive body exuding both grace and power. The lion's golden mane glowed faintly in the dim light, and its piercing amber eyes locked onto Liam. Liam, too young to fully comprehend the danger, tilted his head in awe. "Leo," he whispered, holding up his stuffed animal. "Look, it's a real lion." The lion didn't react to the boy's words. Its gaze was focused, predatory, and unblinking. It lowered its head slightly, muscles tensing as it crouched. A low growl rumbled in its throat, a warning that sent shivers through the air. Liam, still clutching Leo, took a hesitant step backward. "Nice lion," he said softly, his voice trembling. The lion's growl grew louder as it crept closer, its body coiled like a spring ready to pounce. Just as it leaped, a thunderous roar shattered the silence. From the shadows of the forest, another lion emerged. This one was larger, its mane darker and fuller, with a long scar running down the left side of its face, a testament to a life of survival and battle. Its golden eyes burned with an intensity that rivaled the first lion's ferocity. Liam had no way of knowing the history of the second lion that now stood as his guardian. To him, it was a brave and kind protector. But this lion's journey to that moment was one of hardship, survival, and an extraordinary bond with a human who had once saved its life. Years ago, deep within the same Silverwood forest, a young forest ranger named Marcus Hale had stumbled upon something he would never forget. It was a cold winter morning, and the forest was blanketed in frost. Marcus, known for his unwavering dedication to wildlife preservation, was patrolling the area when he heard a faint sound. A soft, pitiful cry, barely audible above the rustling of the wind. Intrigued, he followed the sound, pushing through a tangle of underbrush until he came across a sight that stopped him in his tracks. Lying in a shallow hollow was a lion cub, its tiny body shivering and its golden fur matted with dirt. The cub was no more than a few months old, and its thin frame suggested it had been abandoned or orphaned. A fresh wound marred its left flank, likely inflicted by another predator. Marcus knelt beside the cub, his heart aching. Lions weren't native to the region, but rumors had circulated about exotic animals being illegally smuggled and released into the wild when owners could no longer care for them. This cub was undoubtedly a victim of such cruelty. "Hey there, little guy," Marcus said softly, extending his hand. The cub flinched but lacked the strength to run. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." Marcus carefully wrapped the cub in his jacket, feeling its weak, rapid heartbeat against his chest. He carried it back to his cabin on the edge of the forest, where he began the painstaking process of nursing it back to health. For months, Marcus cared for the cub, whom he named Ash, after the grayish hue of its mane. Ash grew stronger under Marcus's watchful care, but the bond they formed went beyond mere survival. Ash would follow Marcus everywhere, padding after him as he worked in the cabin or patrolled the forest. Despite its wild instincts, the cub showed a remarkable level of trust and affection for its human caretaker. Marcus, in turn, was deeply moved by Ash's resilience and intelligence. He taught the young lion how to navigate the forest, encouraging it to hunt and fend for itself, while still providing a safety net. As Ash grew into a powerful adult lion, Marcus knew the time would come when it would need to return fully to the wild. "It's your home, Ash," Marcus said one evening, as they sat together on the porch of the cabin, watching the sunset over the treetops. "You were born to roam free." Before releasing Ash, Marcus did something he had never done before. He carved a small medallion from a piece of oak wood, inscribed with the symbol of a lion. He attached it to a leather strap and placed it around Ash's neck. It wasn't just a token. It was a reminder of their bond, a symbol of the trust and care they had shared. When the day finally came, Marcus led Ash to a secluded part of the forest and released him. The lion lingered for a moment, looking back at Marcus with what seemed like understanding. Then, with a final deep rumble, Ash disappeared into the trees. For years, Ash roamed the wild, becoming a true king of the forest. His powerful frame and keen instincts earned him the respect of the other predators in the region. But the medallion around his neck remained, a silent testament to his connection with Marcus. Ash's journey wasn't without hardship. He bore the scars of battles with rival predators and endured harsh winters and lean hunting seasons. Yet he survived, growing stronger and wiser with each passing year. He avoided humans whenever possible, but deep within him, a faint memory lingered, the warmth of Marcus's touch, the soothing cadence of his voice. The scarred lion stepped between Liam and the predator, letting out another earth-shaking roar that seemed to make the very trees tremble. The first lion hesitated, snarling as it sized up its new opponent. It paced back and forth, its muscles rippling under its tawny coat. Liam watched, wide-eyed and motionless, as the two lions began to circle each other. To his young mind, it was like watching a storybook come to life, a tale of courage and danger unfolding before his very eyes. The first lion lunged, its claws flashing in the dim light. The scarred lion met the attack head-on, their bodies colliding with a force that echoed through the forest. They snarled and clawed at each other, their roars blending into a primal symphony of power and dominance. The fight was brutal. The two lions wrestled in the dirt, kicking up leaves and debris as they vied for supremacy. The scarred lion, despite its age, moved with precision and strength. Its claws found purchase on the predator's shoulder, drawing blood. The first lion let out a pained roar and staggered back, its movements less confident now. The scarred lion took advantage of the moment, delivering a final, thunderous swipe that sent the predator retreating into the shadows. Panting heavily, the scarred lion stood tall, its golden eyes scanning the forest for any lingering threats. The scarred lion turned its gaze to Liam, who was still clutching Leo tightly. Despite the terrifying battle he had just witnessed, the boy didn't cry or run. Instead, he looked up at the lion with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "You're a good lion," Liam said softly, his voice trembling but sincere. "Thank you for saving me." The lion rumbled low in its chest, a sound that wasn't quite a growl, but something closer to a purr. It stepped closer, its massive paws making barely a sound on the forest floor. It lowered itself onto its haunches, sitting just a few feet from Liam. Feeling strangely safe, Liam crawled closer and placed his tiny hand on the lion's paw. "You're my friend now," he declared, his voice full of the innocence only a child could possess. The lion didn't move, allowing the boy to lean against it. Its body was warm and solid, a comforting presence in the cold, unfamiliar forest. Liam's eyelids grew heavy, and before long he fell asleep, curled up against the lion's side with Leo tucked under his arm. All through the night, the lion stood watch, its keen senses alert for any sign of danger. It was more than just a protector. It was a guardian, bound by some unspoken connection to the boy it had saved. Meanwhile, Emma and David were frantic. They had scoured the trails, their voices hoarse from calling Liam's name. They had enlisted the help of other hikers, and even the local forest rangers, forming a search party that combed through the dense underbrush with flashlights and whistles. "Liam!" Emma shouted, her voice breaking with desperation. "Please, baby, answer me." David held her hand tightly, his own fear threatening to overwhelm him. "We'll find him," he said, though his voice wavered. "We have to." The search party pushed deeper into the forest, their determination unwavering despite the growing darkness. They called out Liam's name over and over, hoping for any sign of him. As dawn broke, the search party heard a sound, a low rumbling growl that sent chills down their spines. They followed the noise, their footsteps quickening as hope and fear warred within them. In a small clearing, they found Liam. He was sitting beside the scarred lion, his tiny hand resting on its paw. The sight was both terrifying and miraculous. The lion's golden eyes locked onto the searchers, its body tense but not aggressive. "Liam!" Emma cried, breaking into a run. Hearing his mother's voice, Liam looked up and smiled. "Mommy, Daddy!" he shouted, waving excitedly. The scarred lion stood and took a step back, watching as Emma scooped Liam into her arms. David joined them, his hands trembling as he held his son close. "You found me!" Liam exclaimed. "And the big lion saved me!" Emma and David looked at the lion, their fear mingled with gratitude. The animal seemed to understand their emotions. It rumbled softly, gave one last lingering look at Liam, and then disappeared into the trees. Back home, Liam excitedly recounted his adventure. "The big lion scared away the mean lion," he said, clutching Leo tightly. "And then he stayed with me all night." The story of the scarred lion spread quickly, becoming a legend in their small town. Many believed the lion had been touched by the kindness of humans and had become a guardian of the forest, protecting those who needed it most. For Liam, the lion wasn't just a hero. It was a friend, a protector who appeared when he needed it most. Ash had come full circle. Once saved by a human, he now served as a savior. The bond forged in those fleeting hours with Liam was silent, but profound. A reminder that kindness, even in the wildest of places, had the power to transcend all barriers. And for Emma and David, the experience was a reminder of the extraordinary connections that could exist between humans and nature, forged through courage, trust, and an inexplicable bond between a boy and a lion.